You ever notice how when you're young, everybody keeps asking you what you want to be when you grow up, like it's some kind of fun game? As if there's a right answer waiting out there, and you just have to guess it correctly before the buzzer goes off. An astronaut, you'd say, or a singer, or a hero. And the adults would smile like they're watching a golden retriever trying to play chess. They knew. They'd nod politely because they'd already been through it. They'd seen the real world. They knew that dreams are free until you actually start living long enough to get billed for them. When you're a kid, you're powered entirely by delusion and sugar. You actually believe life's gonna make sense. You think all you need to do is want it badly enough. You'll work hard, stay focused, stay positive. You have no clue that the universe is sitting there like, that's adorable. Let's see how you handle rent. Back then, you think the world is this big open road, and you're the driver. Later, you realize you're not even in the car. You're tied to the bumper, being dragged through traffic while trying to answer an email from your boss. Dreams feel so pure when you're young. You can close your eyes and picture yourself doing exactly what you love. Standing on a stage, running your own business, painting, writing, saving lives, making a difference. You picture applause, freedom, maybe a little money, but not responsibility. Nobody dreams about logging into their bank app and whispering, please don't be negative. Nobody dreams of working a job that slowly chews on their soul while they stare at a screen pretending to care about spreadsheets. You don't dream about bills, debt, or the feeling of dread that comes with an email saying, we need to talk. Back then, time was limitless. Remember that? You'd stay up all night talking with friends about what you're gonna do, where you'll go, how you'll live. The future felt wide open, like one giant buffet, and you had an empty plate. You couldn't wait to grow up because you thought adulthood meant freedom. You didn't realize that the moment you grow up, freedom gets itemized and taxed. The funny thing is, adults love watching kids dream. They think it's cute. They encourage it, follow your passion, be whatever you want to be, but they never mention the fine print. They don't tell you that passion is expensive. That dreams come with service fees, emotional surcharges, and an early cancellation penalty if you try to quit. They tell you to aim for the stars, but forget to mention that you'll probably have to fill out 27 forms and update your login password before you get to the launch pad. It's not that dreams die suddenly. They fade out slowly like an old TV signal. One day, you're full of ideas and excitement, and then you blink, and you're calculating how many hours of overtime you need just to buy new tires. You start making these little deals with yourself. Okay, maybe I'll work this job just for a year, save some money. Then I'll go back to my dream. And before you know it, that 1 year becomes 5, then 10, and the dream starts feeling like something you used to know, like an old song you can't quite remember the lyrics to. And yet, we still hold on to little fragments of it, don't we? Somewhere deep down, in the middle of all the chaos, that old version of you still whispers, hey, remember me? We were supposed to do something amazing, but you're too tired to answer. You've got emails to send, dishes to wash, a bill due Friday, and that whisper gets quieter every time the Wi-Fi disconnects while you're on a work call. When you were younger, you thought dreams were about becoming something. But adulthood teaches you that sometimes the dream is just about surviving the day without losing your mind. It's funny, when you're young, you dream about owning a house. When you're older, you dream about taking a nap. That's growth. That's reality, humbling you one electric bill at a time. And still, we chase it in weird ways. You see people scrolling through motivational quotes online, trying to rekindle that spark. Don't give up on your dreams, the post says. Sure, but the post doesn't have rent due. The post doesn't have a boss breathing down its neck or a kid who needs braces. The post isn't waking up at 6 a.m. thinking, is this what success feels like? The post is free. You're not. But even in the exhaustion, there's something beautiful. Because those early dreams, those wild, unrealistic, sugar-fueled fantasies, they built the foundation for who you are. They gave you direction before you even knew what roads existed. They taught you that you're capable of wanting something bigger than what's right in front of you. And even if life beat you up a little, even if the shine wore off, it doesn't mean it was for nothing. It just means the dream evolved. See, dreams aren't always supposed to come true exactly how we pictured them. Sometimes they show up in disguise. Maybe you wanted to be a writer, and now you're writing emails that make people laugh. Maybe you wanted to be a teacher, and now you're raising a kid who's learning from you every day. Maybe you wanted to perform, and now you're performing the greatest trick of all, making it through another week. You start to realize the dream wasn't really about fame or success or glory. It was about feeling alive, feeling like what you're doing matters. And even when life becomes bills and deadlines and chaos, that spark doesn't fully die. It just hides under layers of exhaustion and realism, waiting for you to notice it again. We all get to that point where we start measuring life in bills instead of dreams. Okay, rent's paid, electricity's covered, gas bill, ouch. It becomes a scoreboard for survival. But here's the weird thing. Even while complaining about it, there's this strange pride in it, because it means you're doing it. You're standing on your own 2 feet, paying for your existence, and still finding moments to laugh about it. That's not failure, that's resilience. That's life telling you, all right, you may not have everything you dreamed of, but you're making it work. And that's the hidden truth nobody tells you when you're young. Growing up isn't about losing your dreams. It's about learning how to dream differently. It's about realizing that not all victories come with applause. Some come with just enough money to keep the lights on and enough courage to try again tomorrow. There's something honest about that struggle, something raw. It's what keeps us human. The bills might be real, but so are the laughs. The stress might be constant, but so is the love we find in small things, the quiet moments, the unexpected. Smiles, the ridiculous conversations that remind us we're not alone in this. That's the grown-up version of the dream, finding meaning even in the mess. Because maybe that's the punchline. Life never really takes your dreams away. It just disguises them in adulthood, wraps them in responsibility, and waits to see if you'll still recognize them. And if you do, if you still manage to laugh, to care, to create something, even in the middle of all this noise, then maybe, just maybe, you're still living the dream. You just have to pay for it monthly now. You ever get that feeling after finishing school when the world just sort of pats you on the back and says, all right, champ, time to be an adult, and then immediately walks away like it just dropped off a stray dog? Nobody tells you that graduating isn't the finish line. It's the starting point of a very long, unpaid internship called adulthood. You come out thinking you're about to start your dream career, change the world, be important. And then reality hands you a name tag, a desk, and a tax form and says, welcome to the grind. At first, you're optimistic. You've got this little fire in your chest, this sense of purpose. You tell yourself, I'll work hard, climb the ladder, save up, and one day I'll finally do what I love. You say that while eating noodles out of a cup in a one-bedroom apartment that hums like an old refrigerator, but the truth sneaks up on you slowly. 1 month, 2 months, a year, suddenly, you're an expert at things you never dreamed of being good at, like pretending to be productive while reading the same email 4 times because your soul left your body somewhere between per my last message and let's circle back. Adulthood doesn't hit you all at once. It leaks in through the cracks. The first time you realize toothpaste is expensive. The first time you look forward to payday, not because you want to buy something, but because you just want that available balance to stop mocking you. The first time you understand what credit score actually means, and it's not good news, you start to notice that your dreams are being slowly converted into invoices. Every month, you make the trade. 1 bill paid, 1 dream postponed. You try to stay positive. You say things like, at least I have a job, and you're right, you do. But that sentence doesn't sound like gratitude. It sounds like survival. There's a big difference between living and not dying, and most adults are stuck in that gap, smiling through it, pretending it's fine. That's what adulthood is, a long, awkward performance where everyone's improvising and nobody knows their lines. It's wild how when you were young, you thought the hardest part of life would be figuring out what you wanted to do. You didn't realize the real challenge was doing it every day without collapsing. You see those motivational quotes online? Find what you love, and you'll never work a day in your life. Lies. You'll work every single day. You'll just feel guilty for being tired because apparently loving what you do means you shouldn't need a break. But you start to realize that adulthood is this elaborate illusion of control. You wake up, shower, commute, work, eat, scroll, sleep, repeat. The system keeps you busy enough to not think about it too deeply. You start using words like stability and security to justify the cage you're in. You convince yourself that this is what being responsible looks like, forgetting that responsibility without joy is just servitude in nicer clothes. And yet, we all do it. We play along. We nod in meetings, we send polite emails, we set alarms for dreams we no longer chase. You become an actor in your own life performing competence while your heart whispers, this isn't what we planned. You remember the version of yourself that wanted to travel, to create, build something meaningful, and now that person files expense reports and gets excited when office snacks are free. It's not even that we don't care. We care too much. That's the problem. We care about being reliable, about paying our bills, about not disappointing people. But nobody claps for stability. Nobody throws you a parade for getting through Monday. You don't get a medal for being emotionally exhausted but still showing up. You just do it, because that's adulthood, the quiet grind that keeps everything from falling apart. And sometimes you look around and realize everyone else is doing the same thing, pretending, smiling through it. The guy next to you in traffic, the coworker who says, living the dream every morning like it's a joke that got old years ago, they're all playing the same game. You start to understand that nobody has it figured out. Everyone's improvising their way through bills and burnout, trying to look functional while their dreams sit in storage, collecting dust. There's this point where you stop asking, what do I want to do? And start asking, what can I afford to do? That's the real transition into adulthood. You start measuring possibilities in paycheck increments. You learn how to stretch joy across weeks of routine. You find happiness in small, ridiculous things like leaving work early or buying name brand cereal instead of the generic one that tastes like sadness. You cling to those moments because they're the closest thing to freedom you've got left. And here's the real irony. You work so hard to maintain a lifestyle that you don't even have the energy to enjoy. You chase comfort, but comfort slowly becomes another form of captivity. You're too tired to go out, too broke to travel, too busy to rest. You start calling it adulting, like giving it a cute name makes it less depressing, but underneath the jokes, there's a truth that stings you traded your dreams for. Predictability. And predictability isn't as comforting as it sounded. You start to understand why people romanticize their 20s or high school or even childhood. It's not that life was easier, it's that it felt infinite. You had time to make mistakes, time to dream recklessly, time to believe. Now every decision feels weighted, every move feels permanent. You can't afford to fail anymore. Failure costs interest. But somewhere inside all that exhaustion, something strange happens. You develop this quiet resilience. You stop waiting for life to be perfect. You stop believing in someday. You start surviving on small victories, getting through the day without losing it, making someone laugh when you don't feel like it, cooking something halfway decent after work. You realize you can still find pieces of your old self in the cracks. The dreamer's still there, just wearing a uniform now. And maybe that's the secret to surviving adulthood. You stop expecting it to feel magical. You stop waiting for the big moment where everything makes sense. Instead, you start finding small moments of peace in between the chaos. You start valuing the ordinary, the coffee before work, the song on the radio that makes traffic bearable, the quiet moment before bed where you remember who you are. Those moments aren't big or cinematic, but they're real. They're the new currency of happiness. The truth is, adulthood doesn't come with a graduation ceremony. It's a slow acceptance that you're responsible now for your bills, your choices, your happiness. And no one's coming to fix it for you. You can either drown in it or find humor in it. Laughing doesn't fix it, but it keeps you breathing. And sometimes, that's enough. So maybe the unpaid internship never ends. Maybe life is just one long learning curve where nobody gets promoted, but everyone keeps trying anyway. Maybe the point isn't to escape it, but to make it bearable, to find those fleeting moments that remind you this isn't all for nothing. Because even if your dreams change shape, even if they got buried under debt and duty, they still exist in small forms. In the way you care, in the way you love, in the way you still hope for better. And that's the thing about adulthood. It's not about choosing between dreams and bills, it's about learning how to live with both. You may not be chasing the same dream you had at 18, but you're still chasing something, peace, purpose, maybe even joy. And if you can hold on to that, if you can still laugh in the middle of the mess, then maybe you're doing better than you think. Because the truth is, nobody's really living their dream. We're all just trying to make it through the unpaid internship with our dignity intact. There comes a point in life when the real price of growing up hits you, and it's not just the bills in your mailbox. It's something heavier, quieter, and far more expensive: the emotional tax. It's that invisible cost nobody warned you about when they said, enjoy your youth, these are the best years of your life. You thought they were just being nostalgic, but now you understand they were actually warning you. They knew that somewhere along the way, you'd stop paying for things with money and start paying with parts of yourself. It starts subtly. You grow up believing that as long as you work hard, everything will fall into place. You think effort guarantees reward. But then, reality gives you this unmarked invoice for adulthood and charges you in energy, patience, and sanity. Every dream you chase, every responsibility you take on it, all comes with a hidden emotional surcharge. You get through one day, and somehow you owe the next one double. It's strange how nobody talks about it. You can mention your rent, your car payment, your student loans, and everyone nods they get it. But say you're tired, not the physical kind, the deep kind that lives behind your eyes, and people act like you're broken. You're not broken, you're just running on emotional debt. You've been paying everyone your job, your family, your obligations, and there's nothing left in the account for yourself. You remember how, as a kid, emotions were simple. Happy, sad, excited, bored, that was the full catalog. Now, it's a complex soup of anxiety, fatigue, nostalgia, and mild existential dread. You wake up some mornings feeling fine, and by lunch, you're negotiating with yourself, like, okay, if I make it to 5 p.m., I'll let us lie down and stare at the wall for 30 minutes. That's adulthood, bartering with your own emotions for scraps of peace. The emotional tax shows up everywhere. You feel it when you put on that polite smile at work while your brain is screaming. You feel it when you scroll through people's perfect lives online, pretending it doesn't sting. You feel it when you finally get what you thought you wanted, only to realize it doesn't feel the way you imagined. It's like you ordered happiness, but it came in the wrong size. You start asking yourself, when did everything start feeling so heavy? But you can't pinpoint the day it happened. It's gradual, like water carving stone, and maybe that's what makes it so cruel. It doesn't arrive in one big crash. It just quietly drains you. One, maybe next time at a dream. One, sure, I can stay late at work. One, I'm fine when you're not. Every time you swallow a little piece of yourself to make the world run smoother, the emotional bill gets bigger. And the worst part, you can't even return the purchase. There are no refunds for growing up. You start missing things you didn't even appreciate when you had them. Silence, simplicity, the feeling of waking up without an agenda, the luxury of being bored. Now, boredom is a privilege. Most people would pay good money for 10 minutes of nothingness. You look back and think about how you used to waste whole afternoons doing absolutely nothing, and now doing nothing feels like rebellion. The emotional tax also hits when you realize how much pretending adulthood requires. Pretending you know what you're doing, pretending you're okay, pretending you're happy with things you've outgrown. Everyone's performing their version of together like it's a competition no one agreed to. And sometimes you catch yourself mid-performance, exhausted from smiling through a conversation, and you think, is everyone else as tired as I am? The answer is yes, they're just paying the same emotional bill on a different card. There's a kind of loneliness that creeps in too. The kind that doesn't come from being alone, but from realizing how much of yourself you've had to suppress just to keep functioning. You could be surrounded by people laughing, talking, working, and still feel like you're not really there because pieces of you got left behind in old dreams, in unfinished plans, in versions of yourself that never got to live. That's the emotional tax of adulthood. You keep paying for your own disappearance. And the irony? The world tells you this is normal, that exhaustion is success, that if you're tired, it means you're doing something right. That's how they get you. You start believing that being drained is proof of your worth. You brag about how little sleep you get, how busy you are, like it's a medal of honor. But it's not. It's evidence of how much of yourself you've handed over without noticing. Sometimes you catch flashes of who you used to be, the person who dreamed boldly, who believed in someday. You see that person in old photos or in the mirror for a split second before the fatigue settles in again. You want to tell them, we tried. We really did. It's just that the world doesn't hand out freedom the way it hands out bills. But maybe that old version of you is still somewhere in there, waiting for a break, waiting for a reminder that life isn't supposed to be just one long list of transactions. The emotional cost of growing up is also realizing that joy requires effort now. It used to come naturally, you'd laugh for no reason, find excitement in small things. Now you have to schedule it. You plan self-care like it's a business meeting. You light candles, take deep breaths, listen to rain sounds, but the peace doesn't come easy anymore. Because you're not just tired in your body, you're tired in your soul. You've been carrying too much for too long. It's funny how, in all our striving to be responsible adults, we forget to take care of the one person paying the highest price ourselves. We budget money, but not energy. We plan work, but not rest. We check our bank balance more than our emotional one. We treat burnout like a phase, not a warning sign. And when we finally crash, we act surprised, like we didn't see the meter ticking the whole time. But here's the quiet truth. Even with all the exhaustion, the pretending, and the emotional debt, there's still something deeply human about it. The very fact that you feel so much, that you care even when it hurts, that's proof you're still alive inside all this noise. The people who are numb, who've stopped feeling completely, they've already paid the highest price. You're still here, still caring, still hoping. That's worth something. Maybe growing up isn't about losing your dreams. It's about learning to carry their weight. It's about finding balance between who you wanted to be and who you need to be. It's realizing that emotional strength isn't about never breaking. It's about breaking quietly, cleaning up the mess, and showing up again anyway. That's the unspoken skill adulthood teaches you, resilience disguised as routine. And maybe, just maybe, the emotional tax doesn't have to bankrupt you. Maybe you can start making small payments back to yourself. 5 quiet minutes in the morning, a conversation that's real instead of polite, a walk without your phone, a laugh that isn't forced. These small deposits matter. They're how you rebuild the balance, slowly, one moment of truth at a time. Because the thing about growing up is, you don't get to opt out. You can't cancel adulthood like a bad subscription, but you can learn to stop letting it drain you completely. You can remember that the goal was never to have a perfect life, it was to have a real one. One with laughter, with mistakes, with chaos, with heart. You may be paying more than you expected, but you're still here, still trying, still alive, and that in itself is a kind of dream you earned the hard way. There comes a point where you just stop chasing the big dream. Not because you gave up, but because life got loud. You get busy surviving, paying bills, holding things together, and one day you realize the dream you used to chase so fiercely has turned into something smaller, something quieter, but maybe something more real. You start to understand that not all dreams die. Some just shrink until they fit into your hands. And maybe that's okay. Maybe that's what growing up really is, learning to live with smaller dreams and finding beauty in them. When we're young, we're wired for the big stuff. We think in fireworks. We want fame, fortune, freedom, the kind of life that feels cinematic. We tell ourselves we'll never settle, that we'll do something extraordinary. But somewhere between ambition and adulthood, reality walks in uninvited. It doesn't knock, it just lets itself in and says, so what's the Wi-Fi password? Also, here's your electric bill. You laugh it off at first, thinking this is temporary. You'll figure it out. You'll pay your dues, climb the ladder, and one day you'll finally live the dream. But years pass, and the ladder turns out to be one of those ones that keeps moving every time you get close to the top. At some point, you stop running after that version of the dream because you're tired of tripping over it. You stop chasing the life you imagined, and you start trying to find peace inside the one you have. And weirdly, that's where the real dream starts to grow again in smaller, softer ways you never expected. You realize that maybe your dream isn't to be rich, it's just to not panic when you check your bank account. Maybe it's not about fame anymore, it's about being seen by the people who matter. Maybe success isn't a standing ovation, it's coming home, closing your eyes, and feeling okay for 5 minutes. Because when life starts costing this much, peace becomes priceless. It's funny how the little things start to mean everything. That morning coffee before work, the few quiet minutes where no one's asking anything from you. The way sunlight hits your kitchen counter while you're eating breakfast in silence. The way you laugh with someone who actually gets you. Not because the joke was good, but because it feels good to be understood. These things don't look like dreams. They don't sparkle. They don't trend, but they keep you alive in a way ambition never could. When you're younger, you think joy is supposed to be this huge, dramatic feeling, like a fireworks show. But as you get older, you realize it's more like the soft glow of a lamp late at night. It's subtle, steady, something you barely notice until it's gone. You start appreciating the kind of happiness that doesn't need an audience. The quiet satisfaction of finishing something, of helping someone, of just making it through the day without losing your mind. The small dreams are humbler, but they're real. They don't need approval. They don't demand applause. They exist in the everyday moments that most people rush past. Cooking a meal that turns out better than expected, getting a good night's sleep, listening to a song from years ago and feeling every memory come back at once. That's not failure, that's life happening. And you realize that you've been so busy chasing, meaning that you missed the moments that actually were meaningful. Somewhere along the way, we were all tricked into thinking that a smaller life means a lesser life. That if you're not constantly hustling, climbing, performing, then you're doing it wrong. But the truth is, slowing down isn't giving up, it's coming home. It's remembering that you don't have to prove your worth by how loud your life looks. You can have a quiet life and still be proud of it. You can have simple joys and still be winning. Because not everyone's dream needs to come with a spotlight. There's also this strange relief that comes when you stop expecting everything to be extraordinary. You start to breathe again. You stop comparing your chapter 3 to someone else's highlight reel. You stop scrolling through other people's versions of happiness and thinking yours doesn't count. You realize that everyone's chasing something: security, peace, validation, and most of them are just as lost as you. That realization doesn't make you cynical, it makes you free. You stop running. You start living. And living, as it turns out, doesn't always look like the dream you pictured when you were 18. It looks like being kind when you don't have to. It looks like showing up even when no one's watching. It looks like being content with enough instead of exhausted by more. The small dream is sustainable. It doesn't burn you out. It doesn't demand everything from you. It gives back in quiet, generous ways. It's not that you stop wanting more, you just stop needing more to feel alive. You begin to measure success differently. It's no longer about making it, it's about making it through. It's not about who knows your name, it's about who remembers your kindness. The metrics change, and for the first time, they actually make sense. Of course, the bills are still there. The responsibilities, the exhaustion, the chaos, they don't disappear, but they stop defining you. They stop being the whole story. Because once you start noticing the small wins, the world doesn't feel as heavy. You still have problems, but they're balanced by purpose. You still get tired, but you also get grateful. You start realizing that maybe the point was never to escape the grind, but to find grace inside it. You begin to understand why people who've been through hell laugh so easily. Because they know how rare real laughter is. They know the value of moments that don't hurt. You get to a place where you stop waiting for life to start and recognize it already did. It's happening in the mess, in the middle of all the ordinary chaos. The dream didn't vanish, it just changed shape. It stopped shouting and started whispering. And if you're quiet enough, you can still hear it. Some days, it's hard to believe that's enough. You look around and it feels like everyone else is running faster, shining brighter, living louder. But then you realize most of them are tired too. Most of them are chasing the same peace you already have in glimpses. Maybe they just haven't slowed down enough to feel it. The truth is, everyone grows into their own version of peace eventually. It just takes getting tired of pretending that more is always the answer. What used to be dreams of glory become dreams of balance. You start wanting simple things. Good food, good company, little time to breathe. You find meaning in being present, not in being perfect. And that shift, it saves you. Because it reminds you that the dream was never supposed to make you miserable. It was supposed to make you alive. You realize that maybe you didn't lose your dream. You evolved past it. You learned to see it through a clearer lens. One that understands life isn't a straight line from want to get. It's a crooked, messy path of trade-offs and surprises, of small joys hidden between obligations. And maybe the real dream, the one worth keeping, isn't about having everything. It's about being able to find something good in whatever you have. You learn that fulfillment isn't a destination, it's a daily choice. You can choose it in traffic, in laundry, in laughter, in loss. It's all part of the same deal. Life never promised to be easy, but it keeps offering moments that are worth the trouble if you know where to look. And maybe that's the final truth of it all. The big dream taught you how to hope, but the small ones teach you how to live. Because in the end, it's not about the dream that got away, it's about the one that stayed behind, quietly waiting for you to notice. The one made of mornings, of conversations, of small victories and tired smiles. The one that doesn't need applause to be real. The one that exists right here, right now, in the ordinary life you built while you were too busy surviving to notice how beautiful it actually is. And that's when you finally realize you didn't outgrow your dreams. You just started living them differently.